Good morning. My name is Ross Cheesewright from Japanese Knotweed Limited. And today in our Ask an Expert series, I have Philip Stapleton-Povey from Counting King, who's going to be talking to us about a question that a lot of you have asked about, LRR, Land Remediation Relief. Good morning, Philip. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited to get into this topic. We've had a lot of questions. Obviously, it's a bit of a hot topic at the moment.
Yeah.
Would you mind just introducing yourself, letting the audience know a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, of course. I'm the incentives and funding manager here at Counting King. A little bit about us. We're a tax advisory and funding consultancy. So we work with a myriad of businesses in the UK to ascertain whether or not there are any incentives. In this instance, LRR is applicable for their business, just to help mitigate any tax liabilities that they have. My job in the business is to have those conversations with clients, directors, shareholders, and figure out if we can help them, and if so, run them through the process and get that boxed off for them.
That's great. Thank you for that, Philip. So, in the context of land remediation, let's just start there. For the
Yeah.
uninitiated, what is land remediation and how is it that Counting King has a role in that? Could you tell us a little bit more just about that sort of that angle?
Yeah, so land remediation and the relief that comes with that, it was introduced by the government as an incentive to allow companies to repurpose derelict land and buildings and build and bring them back into use. So the government allow businesses to claim back a percentage of the costs associated with that work, and it allows companies to turn brownfield sites, run down derelict plots of land into something that can be of use for the local economy. And that's why it exists, really.
It's sort of helping to get back a little bit of the additional cost that come
Exactly.
with reutilizing those lands. Otherwise, they might seem a bit less attractive to purchase and to work on. Is that about the gist? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone wants land, and if it can come in good working order, that's obviously a benefit. The problem is there's not so much of that in the UK. We're not a big country. So what we find on a regular basis is local councils and local authorities do have land available for developers, but they may not be in working order at point of sale. Our job is to identify those builds and help businesses claim back a percentage of the cost, just turning a rundown plot of land into something that they can start real work on.
That's great. It sounds like a really good deal, to be honest. And so if we were just to, with our understanding of land remediation relief,
Yeah.
what would you say would be the key benefits that people might be able to enjoy, businesses or whoever, from land remediation relief?
Yeah, so obviously the major benefit is the tax relief in itself.
It, it's
So
the
what we
money, yeah.
see, yeah. So what we see for developers, construction companies, owners of land is you can receive up to 150% uplift on the expenditure related to the work itself. Of that 150% uplift, you then see whatever your corporation tax rate is as a percentage. That's how much money you get back. So from a financial perspective, there is a significant proportion of those costs that you can claim back. The other aspect is that you can essentially build on plots of land that financially might not be affordable because of the work that you had to do. So when you're scoping and searching the market and sourcing for these plots of land or derelict structures, something that may not have been affordable originally now becomes affordable because we've evaluated how much money you can get back on the costs. So from a perspective of feasibility, it may actually now be affordable, and it opens you up to the wider market, and you're not capped or restricted on only searching for land that's ready to go. So those are the two main benefits, really.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you can sort of have a wider net and have more opportunities. You don't
Yeah,
necessarily need to be pigeonholed
exactly.
when you could potentially get this relief. Um, so what would the sort of process be? Like if somebody was looking at one of these sites and they were thinking, okay, we might be able to do something with this, um, how would they sort of engage with you to make that happen? Like, what would you say if I was like, I just bought a piece of land or I was looking at a piece of land?
Yeah.
Could I engage you at that stage, or do I have to wait until after I've bought it? So how would we sort of work you into this?
It happens at any point, really. We can engage with a client, whether or not they're just scoping and figuring out if they want to purchase, or they may have already done so and they're figuring out how to maybe mitigate their tax liabilities. From our standpoint, we have a quick conversation with that person, maybe understand a little bit about what it is that you're trying to achieve, a little bit of information about the land, and to some degree, what level of remediation is needed. Um, if there is a requirement that remediation does need to take place for you to start work, then it's a very simple process. We need to box off two aspects for you to be eligible to claim for the remediation relief. The first is you need a survey proving the contaminants or proving there's some issue that needs fixing. And then the second part is tracking all the expenditure and costs as the work goes on. If you can tick both of those off, then it's a very straightforward process. We'll work with you throughout it from the beginning, help you calculate the percentage of relief that you're eligible for, which is obviously done as the build goes on. You can keep track of that and roughly calculate how much you're going to spend overall. We can then give you a figure of the benefit you're entitled to. And then once the work has been done and your accounts have been filed for that year, we will then create a technical report of the relief and submit that to the government for you to claim back on.
So you make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and
Exactly.
guide us through the process. I love that. Thanks a lot, Philip. So I know we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I just wanted to go in again. So just in a nutshell, what can be claimed for? Like, so obviously, there are lots of different contaminants and things like that. Like, broadly speaking, what does it cover?
Yeah, so there's two parts to it. The first is what you can apply for, and then the other side of that are the associated costs that come alongside it. So I'll give you a few examples. There is a broad spectrum of qualifying costs. So I'll give you a few ideas of what some of those can be. So invasive plant species is a big one, Japanese knotweed. So a lot of that is the survey, the removal, the treatment, and everything that comes along with that for future treatment as well, because we know how pesky invasive plant species can be. So you've got the initial work that can be carried out to remove it, but then an associated cost can be all the monitoring and treatment down the line. Another one can be industrial contaminants. So this can be hydrocarbons, solvents, heavy metals that may have contaminated the land through previous industrial activities. The associated costs with that can be the removal of the contaminants. So it's the physical removal of the contaminants, it's any membranes that might need to be put down, it's any investigative reports that need to be conducted and site surveys, soil samples. So that can be another example. You've got natural contaminants as well. You've got ground gases. Ground gases is a big one, especially in industrial sites, mining, oil and gas, old petrol stations. There's always ground gases that can be trapped in there. A real big one that we see is asbestos. So we all know how difficult asbestos is to treat and manage. It's the presence of asbestos, whether it's in the ground, whether it's in the walls or in the ceilings. We want to make sure that that is removed correctly and compliant, and make sure it's safe for development moving forward. So associated costs can be treatment, it can be removal, it can be boarding that asbestos away. So you might not have to remove it, we have to ensure that it's correctly secured and safe so that you can continue. But then you've got all the professional fees, the removal costs, all the administration fees, all of that comes into it. You've also got demolition costs, derelict structures, buried structures. So overall, remediation relief can be quite all-encompassing. Our
It's
job is to
really
make
good. Yeah.
sure that we figure out which of those qualify and work with you on that to make sure that you understand what you can and can't claim for.
That's brilliant. So it's definitely another sort of tick in the box of why to reach out to an expert.
Yeah,
Obviously there are a lot of things that could potentially be covered under that, and just making sure that you get like the best bang for your buck. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. That's a great answer.
yeah.
Thanks for that.
No,
So Philip, would you be able to give us an example of a client who's gone through this process and how it might have helped them along the way?
yeah, of course. So, a client of mine recently that we've done work with, they built another location for their business up in the northwest of England. They were sold this rundown old brownfield tipping site from the local authority, and there was ground gases and soil contaminants on site. So what we did with them was calculated all of the associated costs. They brought in a surveyor. They had the remediation works done. A membrane was put down by a special contractor to trap the ground gases. And then what we did was submitted the relief for them after the build had been completed. So in their case, they spent around £800,000 on the site itself on qualifying remediation. Of that £800,000, because they're the owner of the site, we could uplift that by 150%. So that then became £1.2 million worth of qualifying expenditure. Because they're at the higher threshold of corporation tax, they got 25% of that 1.2 million back as land remediation relief. So they're looking at £300,000 worth of tax relief, which can be offset against their corporation tax bill. So all in all, they were able to recoup a huge percentage of the costs required to turn a pretty rundown plot of land into something that would be great for the local economy, great for their own business, and all in all, the process was pretty straightforward.
It's a massive discount when
It
you
is,
when you look at it
it
like
is a
that.
huge amount of money. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you think the value of that site going forward, now all the work has been done, is obviously going to sort of eclipse those costs. So yeah, that
Exactly.
sounds like a real success story. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's not a problem. It was like I said, it was very straightforward. They were easy to work with. Everyone was open and direct. There was complete transparency through the entire process. So it's very straightforward for us. We can be very clear with our role in the process, and we can also give them high level at an early stage the type of numbers they're working with. And then once it's finished, they receive their tax relief in, quite a swift and efficient period. So everybody's happy, government's happy, we're happy, clients happy. It's fantastic.
Win, win, win. That is what we like to see.
Exactly.
As our expert, as your parting word to our viewers, if they were to take away one final thought from this, what would that message be?
Don't discount rundown land just because you think there's a lot of work that's required. It's always worth having a review of what you might be able to do with it and have a conversation with us, and let's see from there what the reality of the situation looks like.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. I know that this is it's going to answer a lot of questions for a lot of people. So I'm really grateful for you coming along today and sharing your expertise with us, Philip.
No,
So
thanks for
yeah,
having me.
hopefully until next time.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Philip. Cheers.